Welcome to Dr Joe Unplugged. The topics discussed in this podcast will reflect my opinions and are not in any way to be regarded as medical advice. Bad ideas somehow never seem to go out of fashion. Many years ago, when Michael Bloomberg was still mayor of New York, and I think his term finished in about 2011, I wouldn't swear to that, but he had a plan to ban sales of jumbo soft drinks or sodas in cinemas and takeaway places. And a jumbo size is about, I think it's about 1.8 litres, which is a massive amount. I mean, seriously, if you went to the cinema and you drank that much liquid, it's pretty likely you're going to have to get up and leave the cinema and go to the facilities before the movie ends, unless maybe it's an hour film. The order didn't get up. And, you know, as per usual, all the usual suspects scream this is going to be the end of the world, how terrible it is. And let me say, absolutely, there is no need for anybody to drink that amount of soft drink, arguably that amount of any liquid, during a movie. That size is something that you'd buy in a take-home packet, and I mean, it's questionable whether we should be drinking that much soft drink anyway. The most useful liquid for the human body is water, and we've spoken about that previously on the podcast. But look, if occasionally you like a soft drink when you go out for dinner on a Sunday or as a treat, then that's not a problem, but you know, large amounts are. But the issue with banning a big size only meant, and even if it had got up, well, if people wanted to, they could buy two smaller ones. So instead of buying 1.8 litres, which was not going to be allowed, maybe you'd buy 2 times 900 mil or 3 times 600 mil. So the end result would be the same. Maybe people pay a little bit more, but the end result would be the same. That's over a decade ago. So now the UK government wants to ban bottomless drinks at restaurants. And this piece is from the Daily Skeptic, which comes out of the UK. And as usual, we'll put the link in the description so you can read it. And I'll quote, and I think this applies in other facilities as well, not just the one I'm about to mention. It's not a plug for them, so, you know, be very clear. Nando's has sparked a backlash after restricting customers to a single glass of soft drink under the national government rules aimed at cutting sugar consumption. The chicken chain, known for its bottomless drink option, previously allowed diners to refill soft drinks during their meal. But zero sugar options remain unlimited, but those with sugar are now capped at 1 serving, and they've put a sticker on the drinks dispenser. And I suspect other restaurant chains are going to need to do the same thing, and that includes various burger and pizza facilities. This is a part of anti-obesity measures that have been introduced since 2021. Small problem, all of these measures, when you look at a graph, and the graph is on the page that will be on the link in the description, follow the dots, there's been an increase in obesity along that time. So it hasn't actually had any effect. Neither have sugar taxes got any effect, because you might increase the price of a soft drink or some other food or liquid containing sugar by a few cents. Doesn't stop people buying them, and a few jurisdictions where it's been introduced have backtracked. It sounds good in theory, and big public health loves it because they love taxes and bans, and this is a combination of the two, but they don't work when one actually looks at analytical data. There's no particular need for people to have multiple soft drinks during a meal, so I don't think it's necessary. But some people might like it, and if it is a treat and they take the family out and get a little bit more value, if you like, by being able to have 2 rather than 1 glasses of their preferred beverage, I don't really see that that's quite the end of the world. And that you can have unlimited amounts of soft drinks with artificial sweeteners is an interesting paradox, because there's a fair bit of work that suggests that these zero sugar beverages, and again, if people want to drink them, it's okay, but they just have more chemicals in them that the body doesn't need. The body can get rid of them, but it doesn't need them. And often because of that, there's some suggestion, again, people argue about this, so I really do need to emphasise that there may be increased rates of obesity because people get the sweet sensation but not the glucose, and then you end up eating more to offset what the body's expecting. Now, in the context of having some form of meal, that's less likely to happen. But certainly having zero calorie soft drinks without anything to eat often does seem to lead people to then eat something sooner rather than later. So there's no real value in that. Surprise, surprise, complaints on social media. Well, look, where else? Welcome to the nanny state. Another said this must be a joke. Well, it's not a joke. It is the nanny state. This typically disproportionately affects people who are in the lower SES groups and probably have a little bit less money. People from higher SES groups who inhabit what demographer Bernard Saltz described as the goat's cheese circle, probably, and you can all scream about this, look, probably having their vegan meals with, water that's come from Norway or something like that, and they're not sullying themselves by having a, in inverted commas, fast food meal with, evil soft drinks. And again, I don't advocate for people drinking soft drinks. I don't think it's necessary. But people are entitled to live their own lives and make their own choices. And there's no particular reason for them to be penalised for it. So what we've seen, and we see the same with the cigarette taxes in Australia, and we've spoken about that a number of times on the podcast, and no doubt we'll do again, there is a point of diminishing returns. And if people do want more than one soft drink, there's every likelihood that they're going to get them and they'll just pay for another one. So it's not that they can't have more than one, they just have to pay more. Now, maybe that will put some people off. They'll say, well, look, I'm happy with one, I'm not going to buy another one. And maybe they'll just buy another one anyway, and then that money doesn't go towards some other use that it could otherwise or ordinarily have gone to. And I think we see that certainly where people, paying more for cigarettes, they either, maybe don't buy as much food for their children, or obviously in Australia they go to the black market. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of black market soft drinks. I'm not seeing that as a solution. But people will end up probably just paying more if they want it badly enough. And the government may adopt the view that, well, this will discourage people from doing it. And maybe it will, but we don't actually know whether it will or it won't. But what we do know is it removes an element of choice for people, and they don't have to refill their cup. They actually don't. That they can doesn't mean that they have to. And if some people want to, that is their choice. And they should have the freedom of choice. And the freedom of choice includes the freedom to make decisions that other people might not like. And again, there's nothing that stops people buying food at the restaurant, taking it home, going to the supermarket either before or after, and buying a 20-pack of soft drink cans or a couple of big bottles of soft drink and consuming the same amount. And arguably, if they do it that way, it's actually going to be cheaper. So you probably end up pushing people to do the same thing in a different way. So whilst these ideas appeal to nanny statists and it appeals to the people in big public health who never actually talk to or interview those who they look down upon, On the receiving end, people will make their own arrangements. And certainly the moves that have been taken in the UK, and they're not alone in this, when one looks at the data on obesity, it's just a gradual increasing line. And if they've been taking these measures since 2021, it hasn't impacted the trajectory of the line. And maybe, just maybe, there's a case to be revisiting what you're doing if what you're doing isn't having the desired effect that you stated that you wanted to have. But you see, that involves a degree of introspection. And it also involves the ability to say, oh, we got it wrong. Don't get a lot of that. Again, slightly different topic, and we're not going down this rabbit hole today. The former Chief Health Officer of Victoria, Brent Sutton, was interviewed on Neil Mitchell's podcast, and I don't get anything for giving it a plug, but he was interviewed, and obviously it's 5 years down the track, essentially conceded that things were done wrong in terms of lockdowns and mask mandates, closing playgrounds and in Victoria, and that they really didn't have any basis for a lot of what they did. Oops. Sorry might be a nice word. The joys of it. All righty. What can we make of all of this? You don't need to constantly refill your glass with soft drink. You don't need to have soft drink in your home. I can say with my hand on my heart that it is not something that we routinely buy or have bought. Have it sometimes, but mainly when we go out. And I don't drink it at all, but I have no issue at all if it's their preferred beverage and they have it from time to time. But just making it more expensive, arguably for the people who are least in the position to afford it, is actually quite demeaning to those people. And it takes away their license as individuals and their autonomy to make their own decisions. If the government doesn't think these people should be drinking as much soft drink as it assumes that they are, and they don't know how much, then maybe run some education campaigns talking about the problems with too much sugar. And then people can make their own decisions. But to impact on people's freedoms, and by telling companies what they can and can't sell when it's a legal product, is the nanny state out of control. And that's bad enough, but it won't work. Thanks for listening to Dr. Joe Unplugged. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, share, and consider subscribing. Tell your friends. If there are topics you'd like to see covered, be in touch through the chat or email info@drjoe.net.au. We'll be uploading new content each Monday, and soon we'll be putting these videos out on X. You can follow me there at Dr. Joe's DIY Health.